What is up, fellow nerds, and welcome back to the Dapper Snapper Gaming channel, and welcome back to How Do I Want to Do This? This is our series where we take a look at all playable options available to players in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and we rank them on a scale of 1 to 10. Now this week, we are jumping back into Tasha's Cauldron of Everything and looking at the path of the Beast Barbarian. And so if you are excited to be the absolute monster, the transforming beast in the middle of the night that just runs rampant with, a claw attacks, with a bite attack, anything like that, this is your ticket. So go ahead, leave a like on the video and subscribe if you haven't already. As you can see, most people who watch this channel are actually not subscribed, so please help me out. Go ahead, click the subscribe button, click the bell, turn the notifications on so you don't miss my future uploads. Later this week, we will of course be either fixing or building a version of this, depending on how we rank it. And then next week, we will be moving forward with the same thing. So I hope you guys are ready for that. As for our question of the day today, let me know if you could transform and have slight, features of any animal. Let me know what it would be. I'd love to know. As the beast, we get to have some claws, we get to have a tail, you get to have really sharp fangs. What would you like to have in your bestial rage? Let me know down below. So the Path of the Beast is a really cool entry coming in Tasha's and allowing us a different cool way to use our rage. And it gives us an extra way to attack as well as some awesome benefits in addition to that as well. So let's take a look today at what Tasha's has to offer and maybe some hints as to how they can be used in the future, and also how they kind of shot this one in the foot in a later book. We'll talk about all that by the end. So at third level, we get Form of the Beast, and so this is our main feature and allows us to transform our rage into not just the feature that allows us to have a little bit of extra damage and all of our bonuses to our strength checks and all that stuff, but we also get to transform slightly in a way that we choose. So we get to choose a bite, claws, or a tail, and each of those give us different things. We can attack with each of them, which is pretty great, right? And so let's look at each of them individually. So for the bite attack, we can heal HP equal to our proficiency bonus as long as we're below half HP. We're probably not going to be using that one all that much, to be honest with you. It's not super useful in my opinion. But let's move on. The other two, though, are good. So next you get claw attacks. So each of those do a D6, and it's built in that when you make an attack with one, you can then make an attack with the other, which is pretty great for helping to stack on the damage. So that does add up, and we'll talk about some interesting features of that also at the end, because this thing has some really cool interactions. And finally, we have the tail, and the tail, in my opinion, is the best one, and kind of really transforms what this can be. So when you have the tail, you not only can do a D8 of damage at reach, which is great. So at 10 feet, you can make an attack with this. That's not what I'm worried about, though. What you can do, though, is as a reaction, you can use your tail to basically deflect attacks and essentially, on average, cast shield as part of your reaction an unlimited amount of times. This is great, right? So you roll a D8 and just add that to your AC as part of your reaction. This is really good. Being able to add to your AC is always something a barbarian wants, seeing how the barbarian is always, well, most of the time on the front lines, going to be the one soaking up the damage, that sort of thing. And so for you to be able to just on demand cast shield, except a little bit less good. It's not as good. It's great though, right? So the difference between this and shield is shield will last until your next turn. This just counts for one attack. So, it's not as good as shield, but it's still really good though, right? And I think that this is actually really nice. Now the other thing, let's go back to the claws for a second. The claws are considered weapons, right? They're not considered necessarily natural attacks or unarmed strikes. They are considered weapons, which means that they can be comboed with other features, and mainly paladin smites and that sort of thing, which is kind of gross as far as having a multi-class. So yeah, you can go a long way with this feature. This opens up so many different possibilities for builds. We're just going to explore one of them later this week, as long as we rank this one high enough. But yeah, this is a 9 out of 10 for me. Like, this is a really cool feature, a really cool way to change the way that you use your rage, and it completely transforms how you play the barbarian entirely, which is exactly what we're looking for. We're looking for unique and we're looking for useful, and this checks both of those boxes. So yeah, 9 out of 10. This is great. Next up, at level 6, we get Bestial Fury, and so this gives us a couple of different really good benefits. The first one is very basic, but also very good, especially to get at level 6, which is that we're now considered magical. All of our different attacks from our rage, from Form of the Beast, are now considered magical when it comes to getting over damage resistance, which is great. Right now is basically the perfect time to be getting it. We're going to start facing creatures that are either immune or, well, not really immune at this level, but at least resistant to non-magical bludgeoning, piercing, slashing. And so this is great. This is a good time to be getting that. However, what's even better is the rest of the package here at level 6. So we basically get the ability to adapt to a bunch of different situations that normally we would never have any business doing well in. So we can change our form and take on one of 3 forms. First of all, we can gain a swimming speed and breathe underwater, which is amazing if you're anywhere near water. You gain a climbing speed, can walk on walls and crawl upside down without needing to make a check, which is also great. Or you can extend your jump distance by a bunch of feet. This is great. Again, adding versatility is absolutely wonderful. Now, I don't think the jump speed is going to be all that crazy. I don't think that's going to come up all that much. But the other 2, depending on where you're at, are great. And you're not locked into one or the other. This can be shifted on a rest. So if you run up to some water and you need to do something, rest up, change over to breathing underwater and having a swim speed, you're good to go. And so this is going to really help your effectiveness if you have to get into underwater combat. If you need to be sneaky by climbing on walls and ceilings, also great. And again, this is just on a rest. You can just choose this. So this is fantastic. Again, 9 out of 10. The only reason this is not like a 10 or 11 would be that there's no fly speed. And there's reasons why, because if you had a fly speed, that would be ridiculous. That would be way too strong. But 9 out of 10, this is great. At level 10, we get Infectious Fury, and so this can do one of 2 things. So basically, when we make an attack with this, we can force the opponent to make a wisdom saving throw. Now, this is based on our constitution, which is great. We're wanting to boost that up, so great stat to be basing it on. And on a failed save, they either, and this won't come up all that much, make a melee attack against another creature of our choice, very situational, or take 2d12 psychic damage. That one we're going to use. That's fantastic. Again, at level 10, 2d12 added on to all of your other damage is really nice, right? And this can be used proficiency bonus times per day. So, I mean, it's just kind of free damage, right? Just to add on. It doesn't scale, but honestly, I don't think it needs to, because 2d12 is pretty good. And it's psychic damage, so not a whole lot of things resist that. I mean, there are a few things, but not a whole lot resists it or is immune to it. So unless you're facing some mind flayers, you're probably mostly good to go. So that's nice. But yeah, you know, if you're surrounded, maybe you'll use the first feature, but it probably won't come up all that much. So I'll probably use the second feature a lot more. So I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. Like I said, half of it's a little situational, but the second half you'll use quite a bit. So I think 8 out of 10 is more than fair. I think it's really nice. So at level 14, we get Call of the Hunt. And this is another really cool ability. Like I said, they did a really cool job with Path of the Beast. I think there's a lot of thought put into it. and I really, really like it. So when we start our rage, we can choose a number of creatures equal to our Constitution modifier within 30 feet that we can see, and we get 5 temporary HP for each of those. Hopefully your modifier is 5 at this point by the time you're level 14, and could go up to 7 by the time you get to level 20, possibly. So, you know, if you've got 7 other creatures that you want to choose, cool. So, you know, you can, if you've got 7 friends or even some NPCs, you could choose NPCs, which is fine. And they all get a d6 damage added to one attack they make on their turns, as long as it makes an attack roll, which is great. So this doesn't apply to things that require saving throw, but that's honestly fine, right? Like, I think that your friends can make that work, especially when it's just free damage. I mean, that's just essentially Hex, but based on the person, not based on the opponent, which is way better. That's fantastic. And this kind of follows a theme that we started to see in Xanathar's a little bit, and then a lot more in Tasha's, of the trying to keep people within 30 feet of each other and getting a lot of benefits. And so this really adds to all of the different strategies that you can go with. So we saw this with the Ancestral Guardians, with being able to protect people that are within 30 feet of you. We see it with the Peace Domain Cleric, which we also looked at a little bit in there. And so that also has the same thing a little bit with the Psy Warrior Fighter, which we'll talk about in the future. But yeah, I think that's great though. I think it's awesome. Adding this teamwork, adding the want to be near your friends and not just be the lone ranger. It kind of discourages the wizard being 100 feet back, just firing all these spells from super far away. It encourages a lot of teamwork, and I really, really appreciate that. The only problem I have with this is your mileage will vary based on how big your party is. So if your party is really small, you're not going to get a whole lot out of this, at least you. Like your party's going to get the same amount out of it either way, but you will not get a whole lot out of it if you're in a party of like 3 or 4, right? And so this is kind of where this falters. If you're playing to this high of a level, most campaigns won't make it to level 14, but if you do, you want to be in a larger party, because otherwise you're gonna kind of feel cheated with this ability. If you're only getting like 10 temporary HP, you're not gonna be all that happy. At my tables, I shoot for like 4 or 5 players total, and so you'd get 20, which is pretty good. But that's just me. I really like this. I've got to give this a 6 though. Like I said, your mileage can vary. If you've got a really big party, that number goes up significantly. If you've got a small party though, and depending on how you're meeting and everything, and I know right now is really tough, it could go down. And so I think a 6 is fair, but it could rise depending on your party size, and it can lower depending on your party size. So just take that one with a grain of salt. Just depends on how many people you have in your party. So that is it. That is your look at the Path of the Beast Barbarian. Let me know what you think down below. Personally, I think this is an 8 out of 10. I think this is a really cool subclass. There's a lot of flavor going on and a lot of versatility, and it's very front heavy, which is great. So I mean, you get, in my opinion, you get so much out of the first 3 levels, and you get quite a bit also out of the first 6 levels. Taking 6 levels of this and being able to switch out a climb speed and a swim speed, and I mean, you get extended jump, but who cares? That's incredible, and you really aren't going to get that kind of value out of basically any other option. So this gives a really unique way to play the Barbarian, and I think it makes it really, really appealing. The tail being able to essentially cast shield just willy-nilly is great. And so yes, it doesn't last until the next turn, but I mean, depending on positioning, are you gonna be getting hit by 6 attacks? You may be hit with something that has multi-attack, but you caused one of them to miss, which is still better than getting hit with all of them, and you have resistance to weapon damage anyway, so you're still saving yourself quite a bit of survivability there. So I think that's fantastic. I really, really like it. Being able to give yourself 2d12 extra psychic damage every now and then, awesome. Love it. Barbarians love dealing extra damage, and it's psychic damage, so always good. The only thing that I find interesting about this is they made this one so cool, and then they introduced a race in Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, which it's interesting that we're talking about this week, as I'm actually starting a Curse of Strahd campaign this week. But the Dampier race kind of conflicts with this, right? So you don't need to breathe with that, so that takes out the needing to breathe underwater, and you get Spider Climb, which is part of your 6th level ability, and you get a bite attack with that. So it's kind of tough, right? Like, if you're going to take Dampier, you have no reason to take this at all. And so a lot of it feels really similar. And so you can get a lot of these features, at least some of them, out of a race now. Now, obviously, you're like a cursed race, and there's a lot there. But, you know, there's a lot of flavor in the Dampier race, too. So that's kind of interesting. Think about the Dampier race before you go running into the Path of the Beast. I personally think you're going to get a whole lot more out of Path of the Beast. But Dampier does give you some options there, so make sure you look into that too. So that is it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Again, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, later this week, of course, we passed the test with the Path of the Beast, so we're going to be building one together. I've already got a lot of ideas for this one. I really like this one a lot, so I've got a lot of ideas. Some really unique ideas for this one that probably you won't see on any other Barbarian builds, and so you'll just have to wait and see for that. So until next time, I hope you guys have a great day and a great week. Stay safe out there, stay healthy. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.